Back in 1972, a classified satellite was zipping around the globe, scanning the flat grasslands of Kazakhstan to hunt for Cold War military secrets. Instead of missile silos, the cameras caught massive, highly organized geometric shapes stamped directly into the dirt. Because those photographs were strictly classified, it took decades for researchers to access the coordinates and send modern drones to map the area. They uncovered Semiarka, a 3,600-year-old ghost town perched on a cliff overlooking a wide river valley. The massive 346-acre footprint is impressive, but it represents a glaring historical anomaly. This was a permanent, heavy manufacturing plant sitting right in the middle of a prehistoric nomadic territory. Back in 1600 BCE, the Eurasian steppe was a 5,000-mile flat belt of grass. In this part of the world, large-scale farming is incredibly difficult. The people living there were minimalist campers. They survived by befriending cattle, keeping herds of sheep and horses, and moving right alongside them. Their entire diet came directly from those animals. They lived on meat and fermented mare's milk, a sour, slightly alcoholic drink they crafted by allowing horse milk to ferment inside leather bags. Constant movement was a strict rule of survival. If you keep a massive herd in one spot, the animals will chew the grazing grass down to the bare dirt. A culture defined by the absolute necessity of constant motion somehow stopped, settled on a cliff, and built a static, heavy-duty industrial plant. A Bronze Age metal shop was a completely outdoor dirt lot. It was exceptionally loud, covered in soot, and filled with the terrible-smelling smoke of burning charcoal and scorched earth. Archaeologists are certain Semiarka functioned as a dedicated manufacturing site, pointed to by the distinct physical remains of the production process. First, they found crucibles. A crucible is a thick-walled, heavy-duty clay cup explicitly engineered to survive sitting inside a 2,000-degree fire so you can melt metal inside it. Second, they found slag. Slag is the intentional, glassy garbage left behind after you pull the useful metal out of a raw rock. You cannot make slag by accident. If you try to chop down a tree with a pure copper axe, the blade will quickly bend. But by mixing around 12% tin into boiling copper, the chemical reaction locks the metal atoms in place. The result is bronze, a metal that holds a hard, sharp edge. Bronze provided the ultimate technological survival advantage of the era. With it, they could craft highly sophisticated tools and objects, like this handled bowl. Tin is a soft, silvery metal, and in the ancient world, it was incredibly hard to find. Entire empires would panic if their supply chains for this single ingredient collapsed. Semiarka had an immense geographic advantage. They were sitting right next to a local tin gold mine in the nearby mountains. At the same time, passing nomads drove massive, heavy wooden wagons across the steppe, roughly the size of a modern mobile home, featuring solid wood wheels and requiring teams of oxen to pull them. Maintaining those giant wagons over rough terrain meant travelers constantly needed to replace their sturdy bronze tools. By controlling the exact, rare ingredient that everyone on a 5,000-mile stretch of grass desperately needed, Semiarka built a highly lucrative, unavoidable highway pit stop. You would expect a wealthy monopoly like Semiarka to meet a violent end, eventually conquered by a rival tribe or an invading army. But archaeologists found no evidence of war. There are no mass skeletons, no ash layers from burned-down buildings, and 0 dropped weapons in the dirt. Instead, the site shows a perfectly clean exit. The locals simply packed up their valuable tools, gathered their herds, and walked away. The real culprit was the factory. Keeping metal melting ovens at 2,000 degrees requires massive amounts of wood, so they chop down every tree. Without roots, topsoil turns to dust, killing the grass. Without grass, nomadic customers have no way to travel there. Their rapid technological success engineered their own collapse. They turned their front yard into a barren wasteland just to keep the factory fires burning. Semiarka is just one example of an unexpectedly advanced settlement that simply faded away into time. Consider Akrotiri. This Bronze Age town on Santorini was buried by a massive eruption, locking multi-story houses inside a perfectly preserved volcanic time capsule. Or Derinkuyu in central Turkey. We only know this massive 18-story underground doomsday bunker exists because a local man took a sledgehammer to his basement wall. Its builders specifically carved 1,000-pound solid stone wheels that they could roll across the hallways to seal the doors and block invaders. Today, modern remote sensing tools and high-tech satellites allow us to continuously scan the surface of the Earth from orbit. We can finally map the buried walls, streets, and workshops of these vanished hubs and rebuild them digitally. Considering how industrialization slowly erased Semiarka from the map, what unintended consequences will our sprawling modern neighborhoods leave behind for the satellite scanners of the distant future?